In times like these, when more people are staying home on their gadgets, searching for new ways to pass the time, more and more people are turning to different forms of media and entertainment. Animation, from movies to cartoons, have always been a go-to form of entertainment for many. People no longer need cable connection for your TV to watch certain cartoon shows, as they are already available to those subscribed to certain on-demand streaming services. Such is the case with Disney shows Amphibia and Owl House, two animated series constantly making the rounds online to electrified fanfare and with support of thrilled fandoms. And with the improved aforementioned accessibility that the show entitles to audiences, where one doesn't need cable connections to watch the shows as long as they're subscribed to Disney+, these two shows are gaining ever the growing reach and influence. Good day! Welcome to Starry Blue, and today we'll be discussing Amphibia and the Owl House. Amphibia was created by Matt Brawley, who before has worked on Gravity Falls and Big City Greens. It follows the life of Anne Bonchui, a young, half-American teenage girl who gets accidentally transported to a mystical world of a strange otherworldly nature. Okay, I know the story may or will seem similar to the Owl Houses, and is a classic example of the isekai trope, but we have to continue through this, because the other parts of this show do merit looking at. In Season 1's finale, a flashback is shown explaining how Anne is accompanied by two of her best friends, Marcy Wu and Sasha Wainwright, as they open this mysterious chest called the Calamity Box. They are shown to be schoolmates who have shared some form of connection or friendly relationship in the past, before being transported and split apart from each other in Amphibia, the name of this new mysterious land they find themselves in, primarily inhabited by frogs. The show introduces the planter family of frogs, as they try to search for a way to bring Anne back home to Earth.
Sprig, it's a fish out of water story. I'm the fish.
Fish? Now you're just not making sense.
The many adventures in this show help highlight the filial relationship and bond Anne has with the planters, an important focal point for Amphibia. As the series' episodes progress, a greater plot does start revealing itself, although this may not have been clear in the first few episodes. The lore around Amphibia becomes richer so that by Season 2, more audience members have become invested and hooked in the show. The look of Amphibia is amazing. From the designs of the characters to the backgrounds and the different locations Anne and pals visit, the show looks beautiful. Like, if you look at this character design alone, you could tell without even watching a single episode from the show that this character is a lively, outgoing teenager who yearns for fun and adventure. Her unkempt hair, with twigs and leaves, and missing right shoe denote all that. Such strong and revealing character design with other characters in the show assists in telling Amphibia's story. On that note, let's have a quick look at some of the characters that bring Amphibia to life. Anne is this brave and spirited teenager who has a caring side whilst also being a bit naive. Marcy Wu is a typical clumsy dork who is always glued to her Nintendo Switch.
I'm about to beat my all-time record! I'm so happy for you!
She may be smart, but she is a bit socially inept. Sasha Wainwright is a rule-breaking alpha girl, whose manipulative tendencies and self-centered personality has gotten her in some trouble with her friendship with Anne. The members of the planter family too, Sprig, Hop Pop, and Polly, have their own unique character traits that make their adventures worth watching. For other adventures worth watching, let's now have a look at The Owl House. In The Owl House, misfit teenager Luz Noceda has a hard time, well, fitting in with her peers. Her mom, Camellia Noceda, who is shown to genuinely love her daughter, decides to send her to summer camp, hoping to instill in Luz a bit more maturity from her described weirdness. Of course, things don't go as planned, and she accidentally finds herself in the Boiling Isles, an enchanted land of witches, demons, and ghouls. The brainchild of series creator Dana Terrace, whose prior works include Gravity Falls and DuckTales, this show is about Luce chasing her dreams of becoming a witch in hopes to return back to Earth. Whilst training and defying that humans can indeed be witches, she meets Ida, her mentor and an older socially outcast witch
fresh garbage.
whose power is unmatched in the Boiling Isles. She lives in a home called the Owl House with King, a small dog-looking demon whose cuter looks I'm sure will pay off as a gag in a future season where he'll suddenly be powerful and mighty. There's also this character named Hootie, who is a self-described bird tube attached to the main door of the house they live in. And that's all you really need to know about him. Luce eventually attends a witching school called Hexside, which you may probably imagine has all the Harry Potter references.
I'm so excited!
And now I feed!
There, she eventually befriends this group of misfits, much like her. Soft and amiable Willow Park
Oh, shucks.
and friendly Gus Porter, who, in all honesty, was written as probably the most forgettable character of the trio. And of course, perhaps one reason why the show is as iconic and trending as it is, she meets her former bully turned love interest, Amity Blight, there too.
Oh, Luce, you're here! I mean, obviously you're here, this is school, and you go here now, with, me. I've been talking for too long.
Being one of the first openly LGBT+ relationships depicted in a Disney cartoon series, the Lumity ship has been warmly loved by many. Some see it as groundbreaking, especially with how Luce is Disney's first bisexual protagonist lead in a show, while Amity is Disney's first recurring lesbian character. Likewise, such steps with intentions of better representation and inclusivity are laudable. It utilizes the enemies to lovers relationship trope to flesh out their romance. Seeing their individual character dynamics play out is admittedly very cute and a joy to watch.
I'll be okay. Are you sure? I could help carry you if it really hurts. I'm fine! Who's Amity?
And scoop!
And I do believe that this ship is worth looking into deeper in a future video on this channel. As I'm making this video, Season 2 has yet to premiere, but I'm more than sure that the relationship will even grow by then. Side note, I've always thought that Amity's name was a reference to Amityville Horror, a cult classic horror film series, or Amity Island, the location where Jaws the movie is set, while Willow's last name Park was a reference to House on Willow Street, another horror movie, but that may not be the case. What do you think? Antagonists Emperor Belos and Lilith have dimension and mystery to them as characters, and as the episodes progress, deeper lore and plot lines are revealed, especially towards the season finale, which will probably be explored more in the following season. The Owl House is a joy to look at. I particularly think its character design is one of its strengths. It incorporates certain horror or somewhat scary elements and applies them to a kid-friendly way, creating uniquely bizarre yet intriguing character designs in the process. The locations the show is set to are also a visual feast, with gags and many potential for exploration. Now that we've briefly discussed these two shows separate, let us now analyze them as what they are: sister shows. I'll start with what may be considered their weaknesses or points to improve, and work our way towards their strengths and successes. Both Amphibia and Owl House seem to have tendencies of over-relying on tropes. Using trusted tropes in effective storytelling is good in moderation, but an over-reliance on these limits opportunities for innovation and creativity. The Owl House especially falls for this, as lauding episodes completely for tropes detracts from successfully telling its overarching narrative, as there are only a paltry 19 episodes for the whole series so far, making each episode truly count. Amphibia also heavily draws from a certain formulaic pattern that would be quite obvious from just the first season alone, with an episode starting off with a clear problem, and it ending with a moral or lesson learned.
You know, Polly, even though you're still a tadpole, you certainly proved you can be on your own. I may have lost, but I stood my ground and fought for something important, and that feels good.
Did it, Anne! You did it!
No, we did it. This wouldn't have happened without my teammate.
This pattern of storytelling may be reliable and sound, especially for cartoon programs primarily directed towards a younger audience, but it may seem dull and dragging for others, especially with how often it is repeated in the show. As such, this rinse and repeat style of storytelling for Amphibia has detracted from some viewers' experience. On the other hand, the Owl House seems to suffer the most from a lack of clear direction or vision. At parts, it seems to want to be a high school teenager drama show, while at other parts an exploration action adventure series. This absence of a firm solid identity makes the show look confused or hesitant at times, and even holding back. Others too lament and have pointed out that the Owl House was hurt by some poor narrative decisions, discrepancies with world building, and less than stellar or all over the place pacing.
Oh, Cramity!
Nonetheless, the two shows overcome these weaknesses and have collectively shined to the promise of their strengths. Particularly, the characters of both shows are part of their heart and soul. By having a strong cast of characters that some may find relatable, audience members would root for them. Brought to life by great voice actors and with their own unique personalities, nuances, traits, and drives, these characters help build the shows to what they are now. Also, the look of the shows remains pleasing. With this level of competent animation, it is clear that the animators, artists, background designers, etc. have poured their heart and love into the craft. And it all pays off into two cartoons that look visually outstanding. In the present, I await with cautious anticipation for how these two shows draw out. Amphibia is already well into and just about to end its second season, while Owl House is still very much in its nascent stage, with no news even about Season 2's premiere date. I say cautious anticipation because there exists many questions and potential hanging in the air, just up for grabs if the show's execution is done well. While it may be argued if these two shows have truly brought a new renaissance era of sorts for Disney cartoons, it surely helps to look at their individual aspects to form Amphibia's and Owl House's bigger picture.